good care of people, they'll take good care of you. Your job as a leader to see in them sometimes what they don't see in themselves. You attack the problem, not the person. Losing as an opportunity to get better. We all need recognition, appreciation. My old term, we don't coach football, we coach people that play football. This book I read last year, there's so many things in that book that really tell you what team camaraderie and togetherness and caring is all about. Be yourself. If you're embarrassed to be who you are, then you better get some training. You better go to school. But be who you are. Success is not a reward, it's a consequence. Failure is not a form of punishment, it's a result.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. Today we have a milestone episode. We are honored to sit down with the legendary NFL coach, Dick Vermeil. He is a Super Bowl champion, a college football champion, a Rose Bowl champion, a man whose leadership has shaped generations. Over his storied career, he led the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeff Mitchell's favorite team. That's how I met Coach. From the bottom of the league to the Super Bowl appearance, orchestrated one of the greatest turnarounds in NFL history by winning Super Bowl 34, I believe, St. Louis Rams, and completely changed the Kansas City Chiefs before retiring as one of the most respected figures in football. His wisdom on leadership, trust, and team culture is something every leader can learn from. And that's why we have Coach here, right? Tech Leaders Playbook, but the key word here is leader. Coach, thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited to meet you and chat and learn from you. Let's jump right in. Let's talk about building trust and leading with authentic care. I know you're truly loved by your players, your former coaches, and all that. You've coached at the highest level and worked with some of the best athletes in the world. What did you learn about building trust with a team? Because to win a Super Bowl, you need to build trust. What did you learn? What can you tell us?
Well, it all starts, I think, in my frame of mind anyway. I started out as a high school coach, a junior college coach, a college coach, and an NFL coach, an assistant coach and head coach on all those levels. And each time I coached in those environments, I learned more from the people I was coaching. And I gradually developed an understanding that probably the most important thing to develop trust is they have to know you care. And you've got to prove it in every way. And because you're always being evaluated. And if you're a real good example and they see in you what you want to see in them, and then they start seeing in themselves what they see in you, and it's pretty quick. You build a relationship and you start trusting each other. The second guessing is eliminated. I think it starts with your care. If people know you care, they'll care. That's all there is to it. And I believe that for a long time. You take good care of people, they'll take good care of you. That's what's helped me. It helped me as a high school swimming coach. Okay.
Wow. Coach, there's a great book called Radical Candor. I don't know if you've read it or not, but one of the things it talks about, to challenge people directly, you have to care about them and they have to know that you care. So you don't have to walk on eggshells. You can challenge them directly. Here's right. I mean, you would agree with that statement. It's kind of what.
No question. Yeah.
Coach, one of the things that I've noticed about you is you care deeply for your guys, but you're no pushover. How do you balance being tough on people while also showing them that you care? And what stories do you have to kind of illustrate how you manage that kind of really tight rope balance, right?
Well, I call it tough love. If you're truly going to make somebody better, not everybody, not a whole team, not a collective group, all has the same level of motivation. Many times they think they do. But your job as a leader to see in them sometimes what they don't see in themselves. And what you have to do is raise the level of expectation with what they expect to be able to do in the future. And sometimes you got to chew on them. You attack the problem, not the person. And because I'm getting here, they've got to see that with everybody, the finest player on the team and the weakest player on the team. And if they see everybody on the team, regardless of how they now are ranked on the team in terms of importance or quality athletic ability or what they're giving to the team already, if they see you all on the same page, and that you're challenging verbally and physically the best player in the team to be a Hall of Famer, and a good player to be a All-Pro, and an average player to be a good starter, and a below average player to be a good backup, and be ready to be a good player or a great player when he has to fill in. And you do that by, sometimes you have to push him.
Yeah.
You have to push him. And I never wanted to put myself in a position that I had to outsmart other coaches. You know, I came into the league, the Landrys and the Bud Grants and the Later, the Parcells and all these wonderful, the Coughlin caliber guys, the Shanahans, the Holmgrens and these guys. You don't outsmart those guys. But I felt maybe I could outwork them. Maybe I could get the people around me to join me, and let's just outwork them. Outwork them. And very seldom you get to take over a winning team. Each team that I took over, the first two teams that I took over were the losingest teams in their decade.
Wow.
Lost more games than anybody else. The Rams lost more than anybody else in that series. And it takes a while. It takes a while. And you've got to turn over you got to convince them that failure and all these things are an ally. You don't make mistakes, you don't get better. But you have to be pushed to get better many times, you know. So we treated losing as an opportunity to get better, and by attacking the problem all the time, not the person.
It's huge.
And it's easy to demean. John Wooden told me that. You know, being antagonistic and being demeaning doesn't really bring out the best in people, because some of the people already have issues in believing how good they are, what kind of contribution they can make. It doesn't take much to reinforce that phase of them. Just tell them they're lousy, you know? Yeah. And they'll believe you because they haven't experienced the success they would like to experience. But anyway,
Coach, what happens? What happens if they're not up for it? They're not willing to be challenged directly. They're not willing to put in the work. They're not, they say all the right things, but they don't actually end up doing what they said.
It's a good question, because in the NFL, there's time periods, and there's roster cuts.
Yep.
But if they start listening to you, a lot of people hear, but they don't listen.
Yeah.
And if they listen to you and believe in what you're saying, I've never found it too difficult to convince somebody he had something he didn't know he had. And because I would say, I've been in this league a long time, and I've seen people play your position. And you have the talent to play that position better than anybody about coach. But right now you're fighting it because, number one, you don't like to work. Hard work is not a form of punishment. It's a solution. And your ass better go to work, or in 3 weeks I'm going to have to cut you.
Love it.
Okay? And by being honest with him and laying it right out in front of him, talking about that, it's amazing. The other thing I learned, you get me going here, there's no correlation between age and maturity. I've coached 17-year-old kids that were really mature. I've coached 30-year-old guys that weren't mature enough yet. Just the NFL's opening their training camps today. There's going to be a lot of people experience. There's some kids in there that aren't very mature yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Or have, actually, the problem sometimes is they believe they're better than they really are.
Yeah.
That's almost a bigger problem. It's almost a bigger problem to handle that. But anyway, it goes all the way back to what we said, you said, developing the trust.
Yeah.
And like Bill Walsh used to say, you got to be able to connect. You have to be able to connect with people. And
Coach,
they come from all walks, all different environment levels.
Yeah.
Kids come out of real nice homes. Some kids came out of terrible homes. Yet here they are because they're gifted athletes, and you got to work with them. Or here they are in your classroom, they're gifted students. You got to all get them performing equally, and then thinking they can perform better tomorrow than they did yesterday. But so I did that. I really worked on. I pushed them very hard. You can't practice today in the NFL like we used to practice in the old days. None of the old coaches can. It's just different because the union, and in the long run, it's best for the players the way it is right now. But for developing people, developing the average kid and making better, making the kid that's marginal, make the team, it's a lot tougher today. And they have 25 coaches rather than 10. So maybe that makes up the difference. But
Right.
you let them know you care. You be a good example. You define a plan. Give them a plan, something they can believe in. Like ours was, was a Super Bowl trophy. It only weighs 7.5 pounds, but it takes an entire team to lift it.
Yeah.
7.5 pounds. And I've had the opportunity to lift it twice. It's far more exciting to win it, but learned a lot in losing it.
I bet.
And everybody else there learned
Coach,
a lot in losing it.
When we met, you talked about you even invited players into your home to deepen those relationships. How important was that personal connection and leadership, and why did you do that, right? Because most people want to separate their business and personal lives. I mean, you're bringing someone into your home, more importantly, your family. How did you, again, take that risk? Why did you take that risk?
I never evaluated it as a risk. When you start out in high school, okay, for example, when I was coaching swimming, my wife used to make a big chocolate cake for anyone that broke a record. One year we broke 43 records. She made 43 chocolate cakes. And it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Kids don't forget that. But each level you go up, it's a different form of appreciation. We all need recognition, appreciation, praise. Everybody needs that. And I've always believed you make them better on the field, you make them happy off the field. And the other thing I recognized really early when I started using the same principle in college football is bringing kids to the house and feeding them and having our recruiting dinners at the house and recruiting breakfasts at the house. In the NFL, in the off season, your position, all linebackers next Wednesday night at the house, we're cooking, is they get to see you as a real human being. And the other thing, you learn a lot more sitting around the dinner table with individual players and listening to them communicate between each other and with you than you do on the football field, in a locker room, in a meeting room.
Of course.
Still the other distractions, and the conversations are different. It's amazing the number of things I've heard over the years sitting around a table. And then the other thing is see guys become closer together because they're sharing a unique experience eating at the head coach's house.
It's huge.
But it was just me. And my wife of 70 years, she grew up with me at this kind of thinking, and most players I haven't seen in a long time, the first thing they say is, how's Mrs. V? Is she still making this hors d'oeuvre? Is she still doing this? They remember that because it's uniquely different. Maybe not uniquely better, but it fit how we built relationships.
Yeah.
And they knew the minute they stepped on that field, or the minute they were a minute late, or the minute they did something wrong, they're going to get their ass chewed for the mistake they made. Not because of the person they are, but you made a mistake. Don't give me an excuse. Yeah, you should have left your home 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
These kinds of things. And I learned so much from the real fine coaches I was around to. I've worked with 28 football coaches that had been, or later became a head coach in the NFL.
Wow. 4
are in the Hall of Fame. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Bill Walsh I worked with, very, very, very personal friend. George Allen I worked with in 4. Very, very, we became very good friends. And I only worked with him a year. Okay. Sid Gilman, yeah. Charlie Joyner was he worked on my coaching. He was a Hall of Fame wide receiver. But you learn from these people too. I learned a lot, from Jim Moore. I'm working with Jim Moore, another NFL head football coach.
That's great.
Martz, you learn from him. You learn from Al Saunders and all these guys. But most of my learning in regard to working with people started in high school. And then you kept improving your own skills because you matured. You studied others. And when I left coaching in 2006, I spent a lot of time reading how other coaches did it. Plus, in 14 years in broadcasting, I got to watch all the best coaches in America coach their football teams. I got to sit in their meetings. I got to go to their practice sessions. I got to listen to them talk to the team. I got to sit in the locker room and listen to players talk to players and then talk to me. Yeah, so it just deepens what you think, especially when it fits And sometimes you critique yourself and think, if I ever go back, I'm going to do it better this way. And those kinds of things. It's amazing what you can learn if you don't think you know it all.
Yeah.
So,
Coach, it almost seems like by building these great relationships with them, and you humanize yourselves in their eyes, right?
that's a great term.
And they don't want to let you down either. So there's a little bit of that too. It becomes much bigger than a coach who cares, man, I'll go play for another team. This guy is my mentor. This guy's a father figure. I can't let him down. So I got to give my best. If my best is not good enough because I'm not physically talented enough, or I'm older now and I have injuries, that's okay. There's respect for the game. I put it all on the court or field, whatever, and now I'm done, and that's okay.
It's the same in the business world. When I retired, last game was January 1st, 2006. Did a lot of speaking, and I really enjoyed doing speaking gigs. It's just fun, and it's amazing how many times the CEO or the top business people there come up and you sit around and talk after. They all have the same problems we had in football.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. But they're not on television. They're not on the sports page. And they're on the radio talk shows. But they're confronted with the same issues. And sometimes I would say, the big thing you got to be careful of is worrying about your product more than you worry about your people. Yeah. You take real good care of your people, like I already said. They take good care of you.
Yeah.
And your example is, as a leader, is far more important than your opinion or any advice you could give them. And it becomes now the terms they use the term a lot today, culture.
Yeah.
Good culture. And but when you do that, it starts from the ground up. It starts from the lowest level. And actually, it's easier to do that when you take over a losing organization, because there aren't as many second guessers.
Yeah.
Because
they're tired of losing.
No matter how long they've been doing it that way, it isn't working.
Yeah.
So we might as well buy along. We might as well go along with this idiot, because he's doing it much different, much harder, much tougher than it's been around here before.
You're right. Coach, let's talk a little bit about delegation, right? Because many leaders today struggle with delegation. Therefore, they can't scale because they're constantly having to I'll just do it myself. I'm the guy in everything. What lessons have you learned from your coaching days that you could share with a leader that says, look, you have to delegate and elevate, right? Like, tell us.
No question. In my career, I would say that's the number one thing I really learned a lot about, because it ruined me after 7 years in the NFL. First off, when you come up as a high school coach, I had one assistant varsity football coach as the head coach in high school. As a head coach in junior college, I had one assistant coach. Okay. When I was a head coach in college, I had 10 assistant coaches. When I was head coach in the NFL, initially when I came to the Eagles, 10 coaches, I had 3 more than anybody else in the league. Just that. And but when you come up where you mow your own lawn, and line your own fields, and get the shoes in the lock, you do everything yourself. It becomes, you start developing a thought, well, maybe you're the only guy that can really do it.
Yep, absolutely.
It took me a while, and I learned the hard way. And that's one of the reasons I had to walk away from coaching in '82. It just, my passion became an obsession because I thought I had to do everything. And I learned that delegation is not a sign of laziness. It's a sign of trust, confidence, belief, and shared thinking. And it helped. When I came back after 14 years of broadcasting, I'd watched a lot of great coaches coach. And most of them weren't trying to do it like I did it all the time, all by thinking I had to make every single decision myself. And they were all really good. And some guys more dominant in their own circle than others. But I learned, and when I went back, first off, I couldn't do it the way I had been doing it. I couldn't be my own offensive coordinator, call my own plays, coach my own quarterback, be head of personnel, and hire your staff, and talk to the doctors, talk to the trainers, handle the media. All that stuff is magnified in how important it is and how much of it there is. And just the media world, you got to be prepared.
So how did you balance that? What was the first step, Coach? Like, how do you deal with that, right? Because it's
with good people.
There you go.
Make sure you hire properly.
Okay. And what if you were not in charge of hiring those people?
Yeah. You get a feel. First, me, I was not a major interview guy. I talked to people that I trusted in my profession or had worked for like in the past. And I would ask, this gentleman has worked for you, what do you think? And he'd say, he's pretty good in the classroom, he's adequate on the field. If you can find somebody, I wouldn't rehire him again. Or you'd say, like Bill Walsh would say, hey, hire that guy. I had my mind made up before I got into my office to interview him. I was going to hire him. Why? Because Bill Walsh told me. Okay.
Yeah.
And I hired people like that. I hired people I never interviewed. I hired people I saw coach when I was in broadcasting. But I still bring him and visit with him. But the reason I brought him in to hire him unless he screws up once I see him.
There you go.
Yeah, because of his performance that I witnessed, or somebody that I would trust with my life tells me, hire this guy.
That's, Coach, it's a really good point. One of the biggest, I think, opportunities that you have is watching players. There's tape on them. When we're hiring people in the business world, unfortunately, we don't have any tape on them, right? So what you did with Bill Walsh was great. It's basically called referencing, and it's off, it's off the, it's not real official referencing. It's kind of off the, I don't know how to explain it, but you're getting real insights from someone that worked with that person every day. In business, we can't do that. I mean, we can do maybe the reference piece, offline reference, but we can't always watch their performance. Any advice you have for leaders who are following the typical kind of interview process where people show up and they're their best, and at the end of the day, when they come in, they don't always perform the way that they said they could or would?
Summarize that question again.
Considering that you can't, let's say you can't watch employees at their previous companies. You can't watch them. There's no tape. And yes, you can do referencing, but it's not always legit. They're their friends or someone that cares about them. That doesn't mean they're going to give you a real reference. How would you recommend leaders to interview in such a way that they can get the truth, they can get the real person?
Well, then it's investment of time.
Okay.
One-on-one. And I always like meeting the wife and getting with her because she's always going to have an influence.
Wow.
She is, especially coaching, because they're long hours. And if a guy's going home every night and listening to his wife bitch about how many hours he's working, it's going to end up in divorce. That affects that person the way he comes to work the next day.
That's brilliant.
So I really enjoyed. My wife did a great job of that. She had chicks night out. Okay, to coach all the wives because you work. You're really out 7 days a week all season.
Yeah.
And you do these things to gain insight to the true person, see him in other environmental situations. And hopefully you can talk to enough people that have been around that you trust. But there are many, like I said, number one, recommendation.
Yeah.
Number two, personal feel for the person. I always felt, because of my starting out like I did, working with the young kids and all the way on up, that I became a good evaluator as well as an eliminator.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Because you can just get a feel with talking to a person and listening to him, and pretty quick you'll get some very positive vibes, and you start thinking, this is the guy. He's the right guy. And pretty quick you start thinking about, I have some question marks about this guy.
That's huge.
Once the season starts, especially in the NFL, once the season, it is all work, and you're departmentalized. You're in your linebacker room. You're in your defensive line room. You're in the secondary room. You're in the O-line room. You're in the quarterback room, and they've all got to be on the same page.
Coach,
and many times you recognize the guys that won't get on the same page usually.
Yeah. There's, the world has changed so much that not only can you not watch them on film anymore, there's so many limitations now in a remote world, right? I mean, half of companies hire at least half of their, or a quarter of their staff to be remote. So one of the things you talked about is getting closer and closer and closer and building a real relationship. Maybe you take that candidate out to a lunch and you see how they react or interact with people. The problem with the new world is there's less and less opportunities. Right now, everything's done on Zoom. Everything's done on Zoom. So there's lots of challenges. I have another question for you, Coach. It's a tough one. Do you believe leadership is innate, or can it actually be taught? Is it a quality that someone just is born with and they're a leader, or they're not? Or is it something that you can teach?
I think the best leaders are instinctive, but I think leadership skills can be improved.
Great.
Yeah. You got to know.
As long as someone wants it. They have to want to be a leader.
Get a listener and eliminate the ego.
Yeah.
Eliminate the ego. Just know if I'm going to be good at what I'm doing, I've got to get better. Yeah, I just think that, geez, I lost my thought. Excuse me. 88 years old. I lost my thought.
Hey, I hope to God I'm as sharp as you are at 88, Coach.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But you know something, I work at it. I work at it.
Tell us how you work at that.
I have in front of me right here. See, the main thing is the main thing. Okay. That's if I were to go to give a speech tomorrow, that would be the basis of everything I talk about is in 55 pages here.
Wow.
Categorized. Okay. And then you study it and then you go give it, but don't read it word for word. I used to read it a lot. I quit doing that because, anyway, I quit doing that. But on my Hall of Fame card, I said, number one, the basic principles it takes to win will never change. Surround yourself with good people and let them know you care. Number two, be a good example and surround yourself with others that are good examples. Create an atmosphere in which people enjoy coming to work, even in losing.
Yes.
That's a challenge.
Yes.
Like I said, losing can be an ally, handled properly. Define your plan, which includes your vision, values, purpose, and process, then delegate and lead. Come to work to go to work, convincing your team that hard work is not a form of punishment, it's a solution. There's absolutely no correlation between working less and getting better. Never has been, never will be. Number 6, build a relationship and implement your plan. Many good relations I have with my players and coaches. The last thing they say is, I love you, coach.
Wow.
Now I know it's not like they love their mother or their father or the kids, but it's a deeper term than respect, because you can respect somebody and not like them.
Yeah.
Because you respect what they can do for you and that kind of stuff. The last one thing I have is be sincere.
Yeah.
Tell the truth, be honest. Show your own faults. Admit you made a mistake. And you build a level of respect for each other. Like you said a little while ago, you don't want to let the other guy down.
Yeah.
You feel responsibility to him as to your own performance.
Coach, one of the best things you said earlier, I don't know how you phrased it in your Hall of Fame list there, but one of it was, have a great culture even when you're losing. Right. Mm-hmm. We have a gentleman named Mark. He's on our board. He's an advisor. He comes in, and when we were having a really bad year, he would say, one thing I really enjoy coming in here for, man, the rest of my clients aren't all like this, is when I come in, you guys are smiling, having a good time. You're still joking around, but you're losing. And I know how much you hate losing. I know it. I know it's killing you. But how do you still have so much fun? The way that actually at the time, Jeff was my business partner, right? And we looked at each other as like, look, man, there's no point to being miserable, one. Two, if we have good people, which we absolutely do and did, then we might as well just have a good time together, get better together, right. And then business will get better and we'll all win, but we'll remember that we didn't treat each other like crap just because we were losing. So I'll never forget that, right? Because I hate losing. So believe me, it was killing me. But there's certain things that you still have to do. You still continue to have fun. You still joke. You still smile. You still attack the problem, not the person, right? And
you
if
don't want to be, and I've been around these guys. All they do is add gloom to the doom.
yeah, it's
You
pointless.
don't even want to be around them. You already lost, got your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about how we got to solve these things. I've coached teams that won. My Super Bowl team at the Rams won 9 games in 2 seasons before we won the world championship.
Wow.
There were 9 guys left under contract off that original roster that we took over. 9 guys in 3 years.
Wow.
But I'll tell you, at the end of that 3 years, they loved each other because they worked harder than anybody else in the league to get where they are, and they started believing in each other.
Amazing.
And the adversity, you can lose a game. I promise you. Let's say there's 65 offensive snaps. When you're initially losing, of the 65 snaps that you had in the game, let's say offensively or defensively, probably 18 or 20 of them were really good plays that guys today really did well. Now, I would build on those and gradually eliminate what we were doing poorly. And if I'm going to talk about losing, I'm going to talk about some of the good things we did as well. Now, next week, it's going to be 65 plays again. Let's get more up to 40 good plays.
Nice.
Let's get up to here. All week long when we come to practice, walk off the practice field having gotten a little better today. Not bitching about how tired you are or the coaches chewed your ass out. Walk off the field, say, you know something, I'm better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
And it becomes, like I say, spirit and enthusiasm is an emotional muscle. And when you tear that down out of a person, they won't continue to work at a level to keep improving.
Amazing.
Today I was listening to the NFL Sirius Radio, okay? And they brought up a guy named London Fletcher. Signed him as a free agent, 5'8.5" linebacker, 235 pounds.
Wow. Sounds
Okay.
like my build.
They brought him up because they said, now here's a great example of what it really takes to be in the NFL. 16 years he never missed a game.
Wow.
16 seasons, and he became a starter on my Super Bowl team in 1999. And from that time off, he never missed a start in the next 15 seasons, in that season on. But you have to recognize who that person is. Kurt Warner, my God, they've already made a movie. He's already in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Hopefully London will have the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yeah. Some guys are destined to be there because they've already done enough things to be recognized to be of that quality.
Amazing.
Where you really become successful in your leadership role is when you recognize the guy that's going to end up being that way. But here's what he needs to do before he gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's a classic example.
Coach, let's talk. Yeah, that's a. I better look into that. That's awesome. Let's talk about your world going from the Gridiron to the Vineyards, right? I mean, you could have retired and just sat on the beach the rest of your life. After an incredible career, you made this very fascinating transition into winemaking, right? How did this Vermeil Wines come about? Why did you do it?
Let me say that I am not a wine expert. I was born and raised at the north end of the Napa Valley.
Oh.
Okay. In the wine country.
Okay.
In those days, when I went to high school in the early 50s, it was prunes and grapes. Now there's no prunes left in that family. It's all vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
My great-grandfather on the Italian side of my family had a home in Calistoga, which I was born in later, okay? And he also owned some vineyard, which we still pick today, but we don't own the vineyard. The Frediani family owns the vineyard. So my dad's father, the French side of the family, his dad comes from France, okay, south of France, and he likes to make wine. So we would drink our own homemade Vermeil wines at our dinner table.
Wow.
And many times you'd have neighbors' homemade wines on your dinner table, no labels, or a little white piece of tape on it that says Frediani or Tedeschi or just Tamani's, all these kinds of names on the bottles, and it always interested me. And then I got to a point where my brother and I could help my grandfather make the two 50-gallon barrels of wine and go through the process, especially as he got older. And I also really appreciated the discussion about wine at the dinner table on the holidays. It always fascinated me. When we were little kids, we'd get a little glass with half water and half wine, and we would be expected to appreciate it. And the adults, especially the grandfathers, and then your dad, and they would discuss the wine and the difference between last year's vintage or the vintage 4 years ago, which we're drinking right now, or whatever. And then it always fascinated me. So one time I'm coaching now, and I'm actually when I mentioned it to it, I'd left the Eagles, and I was in broadcasting. And I said to a good friend who was married into the family that was closest to me, the Frediani family in the Napa Valley, 170 acres of vineyard. And I said, Paul, someday I would like to put the Vermeil name on a wine bottle.
Wow.
And he said, I'll do it for you. He was working for Mondavi,
Okay.
and he had his own little winery basement in the basement of his home in St. Helena. So he made about 150 cases. And Carol and I would go out there. I wasn't coaching at the time. And we'd actually help the crushing, and I'd work the destemmer, and she'd do the pump over, and all this kind of stuff in a little garage-sized winery. And the first bottling, now I'm back in coaching. The first bottling is 1999. And that's the year we win the Super Bowl. So we have about 150 cases of Jean-Louis Vermeil Cabernet. The original label was painted by an artist in St. Louis, sweet little Carol Carter painted the label. So we made a label out of it, put it on there, and he sold it out of his winery. It sold it, and lo and behold, we got a good grade on the wine. So
Wow.
we kept doing that for fun. I had no money involved in it. It was my hobby, and he had a little business of it using the Vermeil name, and helped him sell some of his wines that he was making under his label. And then lo and behold, my real good friends, entrepreneurs, made a lot of money, and they said, let's take your hobby and turn it into a business.
Nice.
And I said, guys, don't do it for me. You're not doing me any favor, but if you want to do it, I'll do it. I like it. I'll do it. So actually they bought out the wines that were in the basement and the cellar of this little winery that was making it in the first place, bottled what they had with the Vermeil label on it, and went from there. Then in 2008, it officially became Vermeil Wines.
Wow.
Vermeil True Business. We had
Congratulations.
a tasting room in Calistoga, which was the only thing we really owned, because we don't own a winery. We custom crush at Mending Wall Winery. Our wine consultant is Thomas Brown. I call him the Bill Belichick of the Napa Valley. He's one of the best there is. Tim Baranek makes the wine physically with his hands, and then the help of Thomas Brown. In Mending Wall Winery, the grapes come from the Frediani Vineyard, which my great-grandfather owned part of 100 years ago. And now we just bottle like 1,465 cases of 2023 red. Normally we're right around total, when they add the whites to it, we'll be around 2,000 cases a year. And we sold a tasting room in Calistoga. We have a tasting room in Napa, which 2 years in a row has been voted the #1 tasting room in Napa.
Wow.
This last year it was voted the #1 tasting room in Napa County,
Wow.
not directly connected to a winery.
That's amazing.
We don't make any money. We pay all our bills.
Amazing.
We don't owe anybody money, and we usually have enough money to start next year's building.
There it is.
Because for all of us, it's still sort of like a hobby.
I have a surprise for you, Coach.
Events. I do wine tasting events. I did one last week. That's a Cabernet Franc.
Yes, sir.
A lot of
That
people
is
don't
it.
know much about Cabernet Franc, but Cabernet Sauvignon is Cabernet and Sauvignon put together years and years ago in France. This Cabernet Franc, more popular in France and becoming a little more popular, and actually becoming more expensive for us to make than Cabernet. We normally make about 190, 200 cases of Cabernet Franc.
Coach,
It's a nice glass of wine.
we're
That's a 2002.
this is a 2022, but
22,
we
yeah.
are
22,
very
right.
lucky to do a tasting. I mean, it's only 11:30 here in LA, but
That's all right.
as they say, it's
I'm
5 o'clock
August.
somewhere. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? So we're gonna taste it. But Coach, this is really inspiring because, like one day I'd like to have our wines, right? Maybe you can connect me with the folks, and I think my kids will get a kick out of it.
The wine world right now is really not good. The vineyards are having a hard time selling their grapes to the wineries.
This is delicious,
Number one,
by the
a lot
way.
of the young kids between 18 and 30 are drinking the seltzer drinks out of the little cans, 4%. The older people aren't drinking as much. Tourism in San Francisco is way down.
Yeah.
When tourism in San Francisco is up, they come to the Napa Valley and to Sonoma County.
Sure.
But overall, the wine business world is down right now. And from what I understand, it's normally cyclical. It'll come back in a couple of years as things change. But we never did it to make money anyway. We did it to pay our bills and make quality wine. And we're fortunate not because of me, but because of the experts. If you have great offensive assistants and great defensive assistants, you usually have a pretty good offensive team and a pretty good defensive team. And that's what we have with our wine group. Yeah.
Amazing. Coach, let's go back to leadership. You work with intense personalities, high pressure situations. What's one hard truth you think more leaders need to hear?
I didn't hear that last part.
What's one hard truth leaders need to hear? Something they don't want to hear.
I don't agree. I think you're wrong. And every once in a while you find out what he's saying is exactly it's true. I had Sid Gilman's Hall of Fame football coach. I hired him at 70 years old to come and help me be a better football coach and help my coaches become a better coach because I couldn't take my coaching to that level that he'd already achieved. So he was like going to school of football every day we went to work.
Wow.
And he had the type of temperament and the personality look you right in the eye and say, you're wrong.
Nice.
And
Nice.
you had such respect for him, you say, I better evaluate what he's saying more seriously. And not
Interesting.
turn yeah.
Huge.
And I can remember having arguments with him. God. But he made us all better football coaches. Then it trickles down to making all the people you work better players. Yeah.
That's huge.
Head coach, George Allen was a fanatic in details. And it took me a while to learn why the assistant coaches, when we traveled, the other 6 coaches, when we traveled, stayed away from it. I always sat next to him. The reason they stayed away from him, invariably he'd ask them questions about preparation they had never thought of. I could give you an example. We're going to Chicago. We're landing in Chicago to play the Bears. It's 1969. He says, Dick, did you check the angle of the sun for your kick and punt returners?
Wow.
I said, what do you mean, Coach? He says they're going to be looking up in the sky to feel the punt. If they fumble the ball, it could cost us a game. Did you think about that?
Wow.
No, Coach, I didn't think about it. That told me why the other guys didn't want to sit by him on the plane or on the bus, because he was always thinking of these details, that would be stimulating, and all of a sudden it became something you thought about and added to your education.
That's amazing. That's a great example right there, Coach, of the details. Dominate the details. It's actually one of our core values. And it's like, you have to be really, really specific and detailed about everything you do, right? Yeah. Otherwise,
John Wooden was John Wooden could say more in fewer words than anybody I've ever been around. Now, fortunately, I was an assistant at UCLA in 70, then head coach there in 72 and 3. Okay. No, head coach there in 74 and 5. Excuse me, get my ears screwed up. But having worked there at UCLA for Tommy Prothro, and then John Wooden. Tommy Prothro was the best that I'd ever been around of taking you fundamentally as a player and making you better physically. Okay. John Wooden, I watch him practice. You talk about discipline. He never said a swear word in his life, I don't think, but He could correct you when you were wrong. And I've seen him his finger up under the nose of a big 6'6" guy without saying anything bad, but getting the point. But one day I'm walking down the hall with John Wooden stops me. He says, "Coach, what's wrong? You look a little gloomy." I said, "Well, we just lost some real good players to USC in the final signing day in recruiting. And so help me God." He says, "Dick, don't worry about USC. They're always going to have better players than you. Just make sure you make your players the best they can possibly be, and everything will take care of itself." From that time on, so help me God, every place I coached, every team, I thought about that. Don't worry about the Dallas Cowboys. Don't worry about the all-pro quarterback. Don't worry about Marino at Miami. Worry about your guy and make him the best he can possibly be. And that includes physically, emotionally, socially. My old term, we don't coach football, we coach people that play football.
Yeah. Wow.
And that building relationships helps you do that.
You know, Coach, one of the things you said during our conversation last time was you never BS'd your people, right? You were very tough on them. Didn't matter if they were in your home. They knew that in 3 weeks they might be cut if they don't do what they're supposed to do, period. And I think, again, that's the balance. It's tough, right? Because you end up liking your people. Sometimes you end up...
Oh, yeah, it hurts.
It hurts, and you're like sitting there.
Boy.
How can I let this person down? I know this person has kids, and I know this person was one of the most respectful people in my home, and this person loves my kids or whatever, right? Like, but you got to make those tough decisions for the betterment of the team. Like, tell us a little bit about how you dealt with that decision, right? I got to cut this player.
Well, I normally open training camp. I would say, guys, in 2 months, this roster is going to be 48, this roster is going to be 55, and they're going to have this is what it's going to be. And the only thing I promise you is the day you leave here, you're going to be a better football player than the day you came in.
Wow.
Now, some of you are going to get to stay. Some of you are going to get to play. Some of you are going to make a lot of money. But the only thing I can guarantee you is when you leave this training camp, being coached by my coaches in our program, you're going to be a better football player. That's what I promise you. And we're going to give you an opportunity to be the best you can be. And then we're going to push you. Because there are some guys, there's always some guys in this room who don't know what hard work's all about. You know, they just don't know. They think they do.
That's huge.
And you got if you want things you've never had, you got to do things you've never done. Shit, how simple is that?
I like it.
Yeah.
Say that again, Coach, for those listening.
If you want things you've never had, you've got to do things you've never done.
Brilliant.
Simple. And a lot of things in studying other people, you hear these comments. Every great comment that I heard that could be easily transmitted and remembered, I would write down. I'd save them. Like this one, success is not a reward. It's a consequence. Failure is not a form of punishment. It's a result. And my guys, I would say the result of us maybe not doing a good enough job coaching. We got to coach better. We got to get better players. You got to play better if you want to stay in the league. You want to, all these things. But
brilliant.
Get the right people in the right frame of mind, put them in the right environment, motivate them correctly. Normally, you end up developing your own consequences.
That's huge. Great advice. Coach, what's your favorite book? One that's deeply influenced you.
Okay, this book I read last year, Masters of the Air.
Ooh, okay.
There's so many things in that book that really tell you what team camaraderie and togetherness and caring is all about. When you stay in an airplane that's going to die because you said if this plane went down, we'd go down together, and then they do it. That wouldn't happen in the NFL. Okay? You read this book. Right now, I just finished Bill Belichick's book. Outstanding book.
Really?
For a coach, any leader should read the book.
Great. Thank you for that advice.
Yeah,
Coach,
the military. I like to read the military.
The military?
I like the Navy SEALs.
Okay.
Yeah, the Navy SEAL stuff is no one trains somebody to do something well better than they do. You know, now no coach, no football coach ever has entered that category because you're not possibly going to put 3 guys to lose their life today. You know, like you would when you're in that kind of command.
It's amazing.
But I like reading the military stuff.
I like it. What's one piece of personal advice you have to offer anyone listening today? Something that's kind of stayed with you through your career, ups and downs, family, all that.
Be yourself. If you're embarrassed to be who you are, then you better get some training. You better go to school. But be who you are. People spot phonies. Every time I've been asked to talk to a new head coach, that's the first thing I tell them in the NFL. Number one, be who you are. Don't all of a sudden think you have to be something different because you got this big. And never go into a press conference unprepared.
Wow.
With the media world today as it is, yeah, boy.
Incredible.
Never go unprepared. Yeah.
That's too good, and we're going to leave it off with that. Coach, this has been an incredible privilege. It's been an honor. Thank you for
sharing. I'm sure we had a problem.
We figured it out. We always figure it out, you know. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your stories, your lessons about trust, vision, and caring leadership resonate beyond your field, right? It's well beyond football. It's well beyond sports. It's, in fact, I think well beyond business. So we'll make sure to raise a glass of this amazing wine. It's actually really, really good. Let's come on.
I have glasses here. I do virtual wine tastings here from time to time.
Oh, nice. Let me know next time.
Around 500 wine club members, and every once in a while have a tasting, and we'll go a Zoom tasting. Yeah.
Wow. Well, let me know. Maybe I'll join. Guys, if you know, go learn about Coach's, you know, journey and his leadership. I mean, again, Jeff wouldn't stop talking about you, but I was like, you know, how's this relevant to our business and to business overall? But man, I've been very, very impressed at how you took such good care of yourself. In fact, I think last time you took great care of your players. You showed me a text message of someone checking in with you and telling you he loves you, and I thought that was great. So may we all be such great leaders that people text us 30 years later to tell us that they love us.
Well, I'll tell you, you take good care of your people, they'll take good care of you.
Absolutely. And your customers. They'll take great care of your customers.
Yeah.
You take great care of them. Coach, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. A lot of fun. I don't get this opportunity very often anymore. It's fun to share.
Thank you, sir. Anytime. And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avetis Antaplyan, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.